Now there's sound. Thank you. Hello, let me begin again. And I'm Pastor Lou Kilgore, and this is the Pastor's Chat, Ash Wednesday. I was having a nice conversation by myself here in the room for the last 5 minutes. Sorry you missed out on it. It was profound. I'm just simply trying to pick our place along the way in this sojourn, as the psalmist calls it, the sojourn with God. And a sojourn in the life of the church. So we embrace a curriculum, a plan for learning, a plan for discipline in the lectionary. And the lectionary follows a life cycle of Jesus. We're past Christmas, we're past Advent, we're past Christmas, past the Epiphany, and here we are now. Ash Wednesday is in the lesson is a point at which we turn to, having learned the lessons of Jesus and watching what he did, we turn now to what Jesus reveals when he says to his disciples, I am going to go to Jerusalem and I'm going to suffer at the hands of the government and of the religious organization, and I will suffer unto death. I will be killed, but don't worry, on the third day I will rise again. So from here, for the next 40 days, we open our eyes to have revealed what none of us would want to see, perhaps. The true broken nature of humanity. The true broken nature of humanity. While we long for love, we try to get it by ways that never work. Demanding it, overpowering others, buying it. We are broken. We are broken. That's the meaning of the word sin. and perhaps it's good for me to pause a little bit on this word sin, because traditionally Lent has been using whatever means you can to turn inward and to see your own brokenness, to be humbled by it, to see it, as I said yesterday, not in a way that puts you down, but in a way that gives you the truth. And sin, I just think sin has been so minimized in terms of its meaning. The word, S-I-N, is a translation that if you looked up in the lexicons, which is the dictionary of the other language, it means separation. It means a gap. And it refers back, in some ways, the meaning in Genesis was that it wasn't a sin for Eve to eat from the fruit of the tree of knowledge. Her eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil created a separation, a sin, if you will, between God and all of humanity. And that separation exists. It exists not only in the brokenness, the fractured condition of our relationship to God as creatures of God, made of God, loved by God, but our relationship is full of fractures. It has big gaps in it. And our relationships to each other have big gaps in them. I mean, I know I'm not talking for myself here. A lot of the things that people come to talk to the pastor about are the brokenness in their relationships. It's our human condition. Our relationships are fractured, they're broken. And the word sin, when it's understood best, is the description of the gap. So that which overcomes sin is that which closes the gap between us and makes of our relationships whole. So forgiveness brings the broken sides together for us and for God, for us and for each other. But Lent, seeing what happens to Jesus, you would have to ask, how is it that in this world made by a God who is love, made by creatures who need love, made in a world of beauty and balance and symmetry. This brokenness is in here like an ick, like a different kind of pandemic that leads us all to do the things we don't want to do and to leave undone the things that we really want to do. It's just a fact of our human existence inside the religious community and outside the religious community. We know this reality. We're broken. We're broken. And I like the word broken because broken is more cause neutral. I'm a broken individual and my relationships are broken. So then I don't have to bear the weight first of who did it, why it was. Like, let's just work together on reconciliation. The Apostle Paul says that in his understanding of Jesus and God and the Hebrew history, that God was in the world in Jesus, reconciling the world unto God's self. God was bringing the world back into relationship with God. So the season of Lent, beginning with ashes on our head, which is an acknowledgement of our brokenness, of death and how death reigns in our lives. I don't want to say more than that right now. I talked about that yesterday. But it's also weird that in turning into that fact, we find freedom. In the same way that turning into our brokenness and acknowledging brokenness, we find freedom to live in unbroken ways. It breaks the power of sin. It breaks the power of brokenness, to turn to it, to acknowledge it, and then in a way that is deliberate, to welcome all kinds of infusions of grace and mercy for us, from us, and as a result, we begin to move together into abundant life. But it's a process. So Lent isn't one day. In the discipline, they made this period of self-examination and 40 days because it matched the 40 days of Jesus' trial and temptation in the wilderness. It also meant something to them that, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, which was deeply related to the profound brokenness of the human creation back in the prehistory era. 40 appears everywhere. The children of Israel came out of slavery in Egypt and they wandered in the desert for 40 years. These 40s, these series of 40s, they carry with them in their significance pointing to this kind of special introspection, this special kind of awareness, this special kind of love of self and love of God and movement in relationships, which says, I'll own my part. By God's grace I will, because it's not even easy for us to do that. The brokenness is so profound that it leads us to deny it. So I have one friend who reminded me that her tradition is that on Ash Wednesday she doesn't eat at all. She fasts. And fasting, really fasting in terms of no food, water only is recommended, but don't just go without everything. That fasting is a way of tuning up this special kind of introspection. There's nothing magical about it. There's nothing spiritual about it. It's very physical. It reminds us that our emotional, spiritual, and life, our inner life, is tied to a body. And one of the ways that you can get the attention and get working on the intangible side of who you are is to affect your body. So she doesn't eat for the entire day of Ash Wednesday. Fasting has, long before the Christian tradition, fasting has always been a way of tuning up. Sometimes I feel like it's risky because it can move over into self-hatred. You punish yourself. That's not an appropriate use of it. But in the New Testament, in the first century, there was fasting that went on. People did that. But then we're reminded from the words of Jesus. Jesus says, if you're going to fast, then go ahead and fast, but don't make a big show of it. You know, don't walk around and complain about how hungry you are and how great you are because you're fasting. What a contradiction. I mean, it's just things that can't go together. That just can't go together. So Jesus says, if you're going to fast, go ahead and fast, but take a shower, put the things in your hair you normally do, look normal, walk around normal, and keep that knowledge, the pain of not having eaten whatever that is, keep it, mull it over, let it work in you, let it tune you up, pray. This is that season. That's what this is. So, how you're doing today at the beginning of Lent, if you're going to follow in this discipline, is that you might come into the pastor's office and you might be saying, I really do want to make some progress in the sense of my life as a Christian. How do I do that? How do I do it? You know, I had a seminary professor who once said that when we got to be pastors, people were going to want to know the answer to the question, how do I begin my life as a Christian? I haven't been a Christian. I've just been living and now I'm interested. I heard you preach. I heard somebody sing a song. I moved. I want to become a Christian. How do I do that? And of course, the fundamentalist church went right ahead and said, okay, we know how to do that. Take out your Bible and write in the front of your Bible today's date and say, as of this day, I am a Christian. Or they had in their services, they had ways to begin as a Christian. Here's how you begin as a Christian. Yesterday you weren't a Christian, today you are a Christian. It's a thing you commit to. And, the practicality of it is really overwhelming. So, people went, oh, is that what I do? I come forward in the front of the church and give my life to Jesus Christ, and then from that day on, I am a Christian. And our professor was saying that, we need to be aware that people need to know, am I just a Christian because my parents were Christians? Or is there a beginning point? Is there, what? And most times in the mainline church, we falter on that. We don't really know what to say to people. But some of it is there in our mainline liturgy, Ash Wednesday. You can begin a journey with Christ, a sojourn with Christ, to walk with Christ, and it begins in this discipline. It's good. And then, of course, the other question, which we always have trouble in, is how do I grow as a Christian? What do I do? How do I become more Christ-like? What do I do? Is it just go to church and sit there and listen to sermons and hope they're inspiring, or sing hymns and whatever? And the answer for the church historically has not been, no, that's not it. It's a journey. There's steps. There's steps you take. And I've said this before, that in some ways the Methodist Church, called the Methodist Church because they said spirituality, the journey with Christ, should be broken down into steps. And you follow the method, and you will move from being a baby or an infant in this faith to being a mature person in this faith. And so they developed steps. And the recovery community took the bones of that step process and developed 12 steps to recovery. And the 12th step, which nobody ever really either gets to or talks about that much, is that you define your ultimate growth and maturity in sobriety is when you find yourself as an adult in your life of faith as a Christian. Now, in order to be more inclusive to Muslims and Jewish people and atheists as well, the language of a higher power, but it's still there. The 12th step is that full embrace of the mature life of a person of faith. It goes beyond just sobriety. It certainly goes beyond just survival. So this might be a really good time. This season of Lent, maybe through these daily pastor chats, we could talk together about the steps. What are the steps? What steps can I take, Pastor Lou, if I really want to become, if I want to grow in my faith? Now, I've laid out a big challenge for myself, but I think it's important. I think it's important to have an idea. We don't have to be passive in this. There is no, yes, spirituality is a mystery, and yes, there are things that are beyond our control, but the history of our faith says you can do this. If you were at one time, you felt like you were a child of Christ and you knew the love of God in your life and you knew that, and then you fell away from it, there's a way to climb back. Lent was that time. If you never really explored the meaning of your own life with Christ, your own Christian walk, Lent is a good time to do that. Now, I can't over this medium. I just would send you out to the internet and get a Lenten devotional. Do something that is a regular discipline. I actually get sent to my email every day. The Episcopal Church does a Lenten meditation. And so because it's outside my tradition, I like to get that. I'll be real honest with you, it's not always very profound. But it's a discipline. It's a discipline. I read it every day, or I try. Sometimes I just go, no. Lent is a time for growing. Growing closer to ourselves and growing closer to God and growing closer to each other. And it culminates in 40 days. It's a 40-day discipline, 40 days. It culminates in Easter, which is the celebration of life over death. Death cannot control us. And that's not some wacky statement. Resurrection is a very unique claim of the Christian church about Jesus. And it's a unique claim that comes from what happened to the people after Jesus died. And they experienced him as risen. They experienced that death had not actually conquered him. It had not. It didn't conquer him. It didn't conquer his power for healing. It didn't conquer his power for love and grace. And it certainly did not conquer his power over the forces of evil. It just didn't. And it celebrates the overcoming of sin. Reconciliation. That can be a big theological topic. It can also be something that you work to experience in your own life. And it begins with Ash Wednesday. Lord, hear my prayer. Lord, hear my prayer. Hear the prayer I pray and hear the prayer I don't know how to pray. I want to walk with you, Jesus. I want to walk with you. I want to walk in this life with you. Put my hand in your hand and you put your hand in mine. And we'll walk together for 40 days. And we'll pay attention to what happens along the way. We'll be checking, how am I doing? What do I need to pay more attention to? What do I need to turn over more to you? What's keeping me separated from others? What's keeping me separated from you? And when can I assent? When do I give in to a spirit that nudges me closer? The pathway is usually a road of honesty. Take a deep breath and speak the truth as you know it. Hold on when people decide to take advantage of you and abuse you because of it. It's the journey. That's the journey of Jesus to the cross. Okay, here we go, my friends. Tonight at 7 o'clock, I'll be here on this channel, and I'm going to read some scripture. I'm going to light a candle, and Laura in the producer's booth will play some music. And we'll say a prayer together, and we'll begin this journey. And hopefully we can keep each other moving along for these 40 days. We take a break on Sundays. We step out of this 40 days and we come together, sing songs of praise and strength and hope to sort of re-energize us on the way. Okay, my friends, we're in Lent, heading up to Easter in 2021. I hope God blesses you richly through this experience, and I hope that you're a little bit maybe enticed to do something on your end to make the journey real as we walk together. God bless you. Send your questions if you want to revlouis@aol.com, and your comments. Happy to take them, and I'll talk about the ones you want me to discuss right here on the live stream. God bless you. Be well, and I hope you stay out of the snow tomorrow.